Hello everyone, this is Professor Patterns, and in this video, we're going to be going over SQL programming. Now, this video does assume that you have no prior knowledge about anything related to SQL and you're a complete beginner. So we'll first start by understanding SQL by looking at an Excel file. So here I have an Excel file on my computer. It's called TechCorpDB. If I click on it, this is what I get. Now here I have a sheet, and in this sheet I have a client ID, a client name, a industry. And then I also have a department sheet, an employee assignment sheets, an employee sheet, a project sheet, and a time sheet. Now in an Excel file, I'm limited to only having 1,000,000 rows worth of data. That means that if I have anything more than 1,000,000 rows, I'm going to have to create a new file. What if I wanted to create an Excel file for all of my customers? And maybe in a day, I'm getting more than 1,000,000 or 2,000,000 customers. Well, think about how many different Excel sheets I'm going to have to create for this. Now, Excel is great for when you have to do something small, but then when you actually have to scale up, Excel does start to fall off. That is why we like to use SQL. Now, I want you to think of SQL as simply just an Excel file. The name of the file, like we have here, is what in SQL we refer to as a database. So TechCorpDB would be our database. Each sheet is what we refer to as a table. And that's the main difference between SQL and Excel. Now, let's take a look at what that looks like on our SQL editor. So this is one flavor of SQL, which is MySQL. If you know one, you pretty much know 90% of all of the other flavors of SQL. Now, here we can see that we have a bunch of different databases, right? Like we have an advanced database, we have a Sequela database. The one that I'm looking at is TechCorpDB. This is similar to us simply having a file on our computer. Now, if we expand on this database, we can see that there are a couple of tables. Remember, tables are just sheets. Now, how do I view a sheet? Well, what I can do is right-click on this and select rows. And this will give me a query. So this is an example of a SQL query. We'll understand what it is later. For now, I just want you to see that this is exactly as what we have in our Excel file. So just like how here in our clients sheet, we had client ID, client name, and industry, same concept, right? We have a client ID, client name, and industry. The difference here is we can have an unlimited amount of rows. We can even deploy our SQL database in something like the cloud and just have an unlimited amount of storage. Of course, you just have to pay for it. Now let's take a look at how we can download and install MySQL. All you would do is go to your favorite browser and type in MySQL. Now here we can see that we can either download MySQL, or we can also look at Postgres or Microsoft SQL Server or MariaDB, doesn't matter. I'm going to select MySQL, and then here I'm going to select Downloads. Then I'm going to scroll down to MySQL Community GPL Downloads. And if you are on a Mac, you would select MySQL Community Server, and then change your operating system to Mac OS, and then download the relevant file. If you are on a Windows, you would go back and then select MySQL Installer for Windows. Now here we can select either the online or the offline option, it doesn't matter. I'm going to select this one, the first one. And then here, we don't need to sign in, we can just say no thanks, just start my download. Once that's done, we can open up the file. And it's going to ask us for some permissions. I'm going to grant it. Now here, it will give us some settings. So choose a setup type. Now, server only installs the MySQL server. The full actually installs everything. It has the MySQL server, the shell, the router, all of those things. It also has some samples and examples. So this is the one that I'm going to select, and then I'll select next. Everything else can be default. So select next. You still have warnings with your selected path. I'm going to say yes, sure, why not? Now, the only reason why I have this warning is because I had this downloaded before. So let's select next and then hit execute. Once everything is installed and downloaded, you can simply select next. And then here, I'm going to leave everything as default. Select next. And then here, I'm going to select or use a strong password. And this is very important. Make sure that you remember this password. Write it down somewhere. Maybe use the same password that you use all the time. But if you forget this password, then it's going to be really hard for you to go into any of your database. Now here, I'm going to select next and then keep everything else as standard. So apply the configuration and execute. So now it looks like the configuration was successful. I'm going to select finish, select next, keep everything else as just the default for now, and then select finish, hit next. And then here, I can type in the same password that I used before. If I select check, it's going to make sure that the connection was established. And here we go. It says connection succeeded. Now I can select next and keep everything else as just default. So let's go ahead and hit execute. So there we go. And everything else should be complete. So let's select finish here. And everything else here is done as well. And it says start MySQL Workbench after setup. So let's hit finish. So here it's the shell, and here is the workbench. The one that we like to use is the workbench, but you can also work with SQL on shell. Let's cancel out of the shell, and on MySQL Workbench, I'm going to double click this local instance MySQL 80. Now, once you double click this, all you would do is type in the same password that you used when you were setting everything up. And then here, I'm going to select OK. Once I do that, you can see that I have some standard tables or database here. I have a Sequila one, a Sys one, and a World one. Now, when you have an Excel file, to open up that file, what you would do is you would double click it. Well, for SQL, what you would do is you would tell MySQL Workbench to use Sequila, right? That means that use this database or open up this file. Now, to execute this code, what you would do is highlight and then click on this icon here. It says execute the selected portion of the script. And there we go. Now it knows that it's going to need to use this database. Now in this database, there are a couple of different tables or a couple of different sheets. Let's say that we want to open up the city sheet. What I would do is I'm going to type in a SQL query or a SQL statement. And what I'm going to type is select asterisk from, and then the name of that table. Table name is city. So let's highlight this and then execute. And what this gives us is all of the rows and columns from the city table. Now, if I want to get all of the rows and columns from the actor table, well, select star from actor. Now, it doesn't matter if I use lowercase or uppercase because in SQL, it's case insensitive. So I could say select star from lowercase actor, and even the select, I can make that lowercase. And that's going to work fine as well. Suppose that I want to only get the first names from the actor table. Well, instead of star, what I would say is select first underscore name from actor. And let's execute this, and there we go. So it's only getting me this table. Suppose I want to get first name and last name. So select first name, comma, last name from the actor table. And there we go. We got the first name as well as the last name. So this is your first basic SQL query. It's known as a select statement. All it does is that it fetches information for you from the tables. Now, what if you wanted to count how many rows there are in this table? Well, one way that you could do this is you could simply scroll all the way down. Another SQL way to do this is you can simply type in select count star from actor. And what this will return is the total amount of rows that exist from this table. Another function that we can also use is suppose that here I have a select star from actor. When I execute this query, we can see all of the different actors that are available. Now we know that there are a total of 200 rows worth of data. But what if we wanted to find all of the unique first names? Well, for that, what I can do is type in select distinct and in brackets put in first underscore name. So what this will do, and I always like to keep all of the SQL syntax stuff capitalized. So select distinct first name from actor. So let's execute this. And here we can see that there are a couple of unique names, but we don't know how many in total there are. So to count the total amount, all we would do is just simply type in select count distinct first names from the actor table. And what is this going to tell us? Well, all of the unique first names, and it's going to count them. So when I execute this query, there are only a total of 128 unique first names in our database. So this kind of allows us to only fetch specific pieces of information from our data. So far, we've learned a basic select statement. We learned the count statement as well as distinct. Count tells us the count of the amount of rows, and distinct only gets us the unique rows from our table. So we understand the basic select statement. However, let's take this one step further and understand how we can also apply some filters in SQL. Now, here we can see a basic select statement. Select star from city, right? It just simply grabs all of the rows and columns from this table. What if I only wanted to filter on a specific country? Well, the statement that I will use is where. So select star from city where country ID equals to 15. Now I can put this where here, or I can put it in the next line. You'll see in SQL norms, people usually start in the next line. So I'm going to say select star from city where the country underscore ID equals to 15. Now, I'm not going to highlight only this line. I have to highlight both. So this tells me that I want you to run select star from city where country ID equals to 15. So it's going to look at only all of the things that we've highlighted. And when we execute this, there we go. So these are all of the cities from country ID 15. How would you count the total number of them? Well, let's put in count star from city. There we go. And this will tell us that there are 28 cities from country ID 15. Now, what if I wanted to also have some further filtering, where I wanted to get all of the rows from the city table where the country ID is equals to 15 or the country ID is equals to 44, right? I want to get information from both countries, the 15 as well as 44. Well, the way that I would do so is I'm going to go in here, add a new line, and then I'll type in or, and again, I like to keep things uppercase. Every single SQL query, I always like to keep it uppercase, country underscore ID equals to 44. And this will give me all of the rows where the country ID is 15 or 44. And there we go. Okay, so far we have learned select, where, and also some further filtering after where using or. Let's go back here to run select star from actor. If you remember, this will give me all of the first name and last names for all the different actors. Now, what if I want to only select a specific actor? Maybe I want to get Sean Williams from this table. Well, to do so, what I would do is select star from actor where first underscore name equals to Sean. And notice that because Sean is not a number, it's a string or a text, I would put this in quotes. So where first name equals to Sean, but will I say or? No, I want to say and the last name equals to Williams. So this is going to give me all of the rows from the actor table where the first name of the actor is equals to Sean and the last name of the actor is equals to William. So if I run this, you can see that it fetches me this exact row, and that's what we wanted. So now that we are learning about all of these different advanced filtering techniques, we're really starting to see the power of SQL. So let's keep going. Right now, I'm going to run select star from payment. And this gives me this payment table. Now here I have a bunch of different rows, almost close to 1,000 rows worth of data. Suppose that I only want to get the payments from customer ID 2. So what would I do? I'm going to say select star from payment where customer underscore ID equals to 2. Let's execute this, and there we go. Now, what if I wanted the amount to be greater than a certain number? So say that I only want the amount greater than $3. So the additional filter that I would apply is and amount is greater than. I could put equal to, greater than, less than. So this is the greater than some number, and the number is going to be 3. So let's highlight this, execute, and there we go. If I wanted to, I could even try 5 and see what all of those numbers are, and even 10 to see if there is a number like that. Looks like there is an amount. Let's go back to the original, and amount is greater than 3. Now here we can see all the payments that were made by customer ID 2, and the amount was greater than 3. But we see here that the first amount is 4, second amount is 6, another, and then it goes back to 4. What if we wanted to sort these in some order? Well, the sorting method in SQL is we would type in order by. So order by tells SQL that we want to apply some sort of sorting. So we want to order by some stuff. So here we have order by amount. Now, if I leave it as default and execute it, we can see that by default, it sorts everything in ascending order. So it goes from lowest all the way to highest. So it's kind of like me saying order by amount ascending. So here we can see it goes from lowest to highest. But what if I want to sort things in descending order? Well, to do that, I would just replace ASC with DESC. And this is the non-default behavior. So order by the amount descending. Let's highlight everything, execute, and there we go. All of the payments that were made by customer ID 2, where the amount was greater than 3, and we also sorted this by the amount in descending order. So now we're really starting to see some of this advanced capabilities of SQL. Now, one of the main powers of SQL is also its ability to join or merge tables. Now, why would we need to do that? Let's say here we have our payments table, and we see that there is a staff ID. And suppose that this staff made a mistake, right, for this payment amount, and we want to find their email. How would we do that? Well, if I go over here and take a look at the staff table, I can see that there is a staff ID in this table, and then I can trace the staff ID to the email. And then based on that, I can simply email John Steph. Now, that's one way in which I could do this, right? And you can see that if I have a huge list of staff, then this can get quite messy. Now, the true power of SQL also comes in its ability to be able to combine tables. Now, the statement that we like to use for that is known as join. So let's go back here and execute this query. We'll start off by saying select star. So select everything from the payments table, right? All of this is standard. We haven't changed anything here. What we want to do is we want to join the payments table with the staff table. So it basically can combine these two tables together. So here I'm going to type in join, and the table that I want to join it with is staff. Now, something that SQL doesn't really understand so far is how do these two tables connect, right? What's the linking connection between the tables? Like, how do I join them? Well, if you look at the payments table, we have this staff ID. And if you look at the staff table, we also have the staff ID. So this is what we refer to as a primary key, because it's sort of this first column. It's like the index, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It's all of that information from the staff table. On the payments table, we also see the staff ID, and we refer to this as the foreign key. So to merge or to join two tables together, what we like to do is use the foreign key to match with the primary key from this table. I know it gets a little bit confusing, but basically all you need to worry about is the fact that the only column that is the same from the payments table and the staff table is staff ID. So naturally, that's the table that we would want to combine them with. So select star from payment, join staff. And we want to specify that I want you to join on staff, and we will put in payment.staff. So we are saying that use the payments table staff ID to merge with the staff table staff underscore ID. So what this is going to do is basically concatenate both of these tables or combine both of these tables. And here we can see that this is the payments table that also has the information about the staff. So here we can see all of these emails as well. So Mike was one of the staff. And then if you look at a staff ID 2, it will be the other person. John Stephan or something. Yeah, there we go. So that's how we do it. Now imagine that we go back to our original query, right? Where we wanted to get all the information from customer ID 2 and any amount that was greater than 3. How would we do that? Well, let's just say we leave the star for now. So select star from payment, join with this table, and then let's add in our additional filters where customer underscore ID equals to 2. And again, highlight this and execute. Now over here, we'll add in our third filter, which was and amount was greater than 3. Again, highlight and execute. And there we go. Now here, if you scroll down, we can see some with staff ID 2. And if you go here, we can see that this is the staff, John Stephens, and we also have their email. Now, the last thing that we had done is we also ran an order by. So order by amount in descending order. So here we can see that it's a lot of different things that we added in. We had the select statement, a join to combine tables, a where filter, and we also had an additional filter with and also ordered by the amount in descending order. So let's execute this query, and here we go. So this is basically the final result. Now, suppose that you only want to select specific columns. Say that you only wanted to get the customer ID, the amount, and the email of the staff. So here, all you would do is just specify that. Now, the format that we like to use is we'll specify the name of that table. So we'll say from payment.customer ID and the payment.amount. And from the staff table, we had the email. So here I'm going to say staff.email. So now it's only going to grab me 3 columns. So again, let's highlight and execute. There we go. So these are the only 3 things that we wanted to get. And it's ordering everything in descending order. So this is the final result of all of that querying. So I highly encourage you to download this table, start practicing, see if you can come up with some scenarios where you might have some questions like, oh, let me get information about this person or this thing, and see if you can start joining tables together and really get your hands dirty. The more you can sort of practice like this, the better you'll get at SQL. Thanks for tuning in. I really appreciate you for your time. I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.